Over the last few years, there has been a widely circulated and ongoing story about Jeff and James Younger in Dallas, Texas. The father, Jeff, has had a long custody battle with his ex-wife, pediatrician Ann Jorgulis, over their, at the time, 7-year-old son, James. The story gained national attention because part of the case is Ann's desire to transition young James to Luna, from male to female, believing the boy to be transgender based on James wearing dresses as early as age 3, among other supposedly female preferences. And Dad Jeff has alleged throughout that Mom Ann has simply pushed the boy into it, that Mom has intentionally confused and convinced young James that he's a girl.
You're a boy, right?
No, I'm a girl.
Who told you you're a girl?
Mommy.
Does Mommy do anything else like with a girl with you?
Mm-hmm.
Like what?
Like dresses.
She puts dresses on you? Oh, wow.
And after a multi-year court battle, a Texas judge stripped Jeff of custody of James in August of last year, awarding full custody to Ann and removing all notification and consent rights from Jeff, except for on these gender transition matters, hormone therapy, puberty blockers, or gender reassignment surgery. So no medical intervention for the moment, but James does now go to school as Luna, in dresses, against Jeff's wishes. And Jeff says the school doesn't just treat his son as a girl, the school actively teaches him that he is one. Now, Jeff's side of the story has been more widely publicized. Mom says these transgender issues are really only tangential to the case. She says the couple's split and the custody fight over James involve a broad range of problems she sees with Jeff's parenting abilities. The judge in the case says the decision to revoke custody rights from Jeff is based on failure to pay child support and medical support, so perhaps it's more complicated, but Jeff says the gender issue has always been central to the fight. And failure to pay doesn't always mean failure to care for that child. It could just mean failure to comply with getting railroaded by a vengeful mom and a court that's on her side. I say could deliberately because I don't know for sure. I can't pretend to have followed every twist and turn in this case's development, but my sense is that Jeff has no intent to abandon his son, hence this long fight, and that any appearance of abandonment is more likely a rejection of what he sees as unjust orders placed against him. And with fewer and fewer legal options, Jeff is now pursuing a different, even more public path. He's running for office. If the current legal structure is unjust, well, you can always work to write new laws that are better, and that's exactly what Jeff is now trying to do. He's running for Texas State House on a platform that includes criminalizing gender transition procedures for children, things like gender reassignment surgeries and puberty blockers. He says it's child abuse, as every conservative knows. For his views, his experience, and now his political candidacy, Jeff was invited to speak at the University of North Texas in Denton, where he's running, at an event hosted by the Young Conservatives of Texas. And the turnout, while hostile, probably made Jeff's points better than he could make them himself. To his point, it sure doesn't look like this twisted gender ideology is producing a lot of healthy outcomes. You know, a pretty good indicator that you're not actually under the oppression of fascism is if you can just walk up to the fascists and force them to shut up and face absolutely no opposition for it. That is not oppression. That is free reign. The event was limited to 80 people in the room. Hundreds more hecklers also rallied in rage outside. And as you can tell, based on the opening slide of the presentation still on the projector, the speech itself never really even got started. The chants persisted, and campus security mostly just let it happen. But at least these protesters provided their own entertainment. Barnum and Bailey are blushing after this circus rolled into town. As one reply noticed, man, Danny McBride has really let himself go. Personally, I'm most upset by the final death knell for the field of political science, which I've long defended as an actual academic discipline. Hang up the polling data, boys. We had a good run, but it's time to become doctors or engineers, or really anything more real than this upcoming inclusive Pillsbury Doughboy rebrand. For his part, Jeff Younger never even appeared to get angry. He appreciated the crowd for making his points, and he even egged them on. He says one of the protesters spit on him in response.
This is what leftist politics looks like. Hey, police, I just got spit on.
Glad to see they brought their own honk honk squeaker. It's the perfect soundtrack for what Jeff described as a communist clown show, which could be taken as an insult, but it's actually just an accurate descriptor for their political affiliation. They branded their takeover with the hammer and sickle. Now, I'm unclear how exactly this event ended. According to one of the student organizers, police decided the event had become too dangerous and evacuated her and Younger suddenly. She says a flood of police officers from the hallway came in, grabbed her and Younger, and rushed them to the back of the building. But there's video of Younger being removed by someone who looks like an activist.
I want to thank you for showing the world what leftist politics really is. I'm very grateful to you. Thank you.
Maybe the police gave the evac order and then the mob took it upon themselves to enforce it? I'm not sure. But whatever happened, the mob was clearly running the show, because that was only the beginning. Police had to hide that student organizer in a janitor's closet to shield her from the mob. She was then given the mob's full tolerant send-off when they moved her out of the building.
Let's go. Come here.
Fuck you, Kelly!
Jeff Younger apparently received very similar treatment. It is alleged he was assaulted as he left the building, punched in the gut. Among a hostile crowd, police made a quick exit, which resulted in the police vehicle striking one of the protesters, and that person reportedly went to the hospital. And you'll notice that secondary detail is actually the headline in local Dallas news. Oh wow, just a person was struck by a police vehicle, as though that's a good description of events. Just a pedestrian skipping, playing hopscotch, was mowed down by a reckless and terroristic police officer. Oh yeah, I'm sure that's exactly what happened. Or it's probably what always happens. An insane rabid mob surrounds a car, and the car tries to nudge its way out, but is left with no other options because the mob insists on aggressive physical confrontation. And yeah, that is exactly what happened, according to reports. In fact, the report in the same story with the laughable headline buried paragraphs deep under that misleading headline, of course, police say the group swarmed them, banged on vehicles and blocked exits. Attempting to clear a path with sirens blaring and lights flashing, police inched forward. During that chaos that the mob initiated and maintained, this protester was struck by a police car. And based on the fact that the school is unaware of any serious injuries, I will speculate comfortably that struck means grazed as gently as possible. And the ridiculous headlines don't end there. Several others accuse Jeff Younger of trying to criminalize healthcare. CNN's headline accuses Younger of fighting against child gender-affirming care, as though permanently altering the physiology and anatomy of children is undeniably healthcare. The local CBS report referenced earlier doesn't even make the child distinction. They just say Jeff Younger supports criminalizing transgender-affirming care generally. Again, the same questions about whether that is in fact healthcare apply, but Younger's position is ending the practice for children, not for consenting adults. Of course, I'm sure that's due to the political preferences of the authors, but it might also have something to do with the response from the school, the University of North Texas. The school's president said in a Thursday night statement the event, quote, focused on criminalizing healthcare for transgender children, as though whatever we declare healthcare is simply made so. It's automatically good. And there's no actual debate here about what healthcare is and whether this is it. Debate curious young students should seek and defend to strengthen their minds, not attack on sight because their minds are too weak to handle it. And if anybody actually could have mustered the patience and the tolerance and the acceptance otherwise insistently praised as universal virtues, they would have heard that the health and the rights of children are Jeff's top priorities. Jeff says children have a fundamental liberty interest in procreation. It's as fundamental as freedom of speech petitioning the government for grievances, etc., and therefore no parent can take it away. Just as the parent cannot permanently remove the ability of a child to speak, a parent cannot sterilize their children either. It's a hard point to argue against, and it's an argument made pursuant to freedom and rights, not authoritarian control as accused, and certainly one with a lot more merit than the straw man of just, I hate trans people. The only people selling that argument were the activists themselves. But hey, credit to them, that was by far the most convincing case that they made. Thanks as always for listening and for supporting this channel. Always appreciate that thoughtful discussion down below, and especially over on Parler, that is at ML Christiansen. You're always welcome to coming out and chat in my live streams. Those are linked down in the description. Looking forward to it. Goodbye.